Hey folks, this video is a user review of the BMW R1200R Roadster motorcycle. If you're thinking about buying this bike, hopefully this video will help you out. And if you do find this video helpful at all, hit that like button. BMW made this particular motorcycle from 2006 to 2014, with a few minor modifications throughout those years. This 2011 model has an 1170cc flat twin boxer engine that delivers around 110 horsepower. It has ABS available, heated handlebar grips, and an onboard computer. On a quick personal note, I had come from a 800 Sport touring bike, which I had done some extensive traveling on. But at the end of those long all-day rides, I found myself wanting a more comfortable riding position that was easier on my back and less pressure on my wrists. And I do love the classic naked bike roadster look. The R1200R seemed like a great compromise between something with that kind of look, but could also offer comfortable all-day riding. BMW called this model here a roadster, and I actually like the look of this bike a lot. It has the best of both worlds in that it looks like a naked bike, especially when you strip off the baggage, but it's also great for touring, which is exactly what I wanted. Now BMW did an overhaul design in 2015 to make it look more modern, but I actually prefer this design. The round headlight especially just gives it a more classic look. I think 30 years from now this is still going to look like a beautiful bike. One thing I have to say off the bat is that the stock seat is one of the most comfortable stock seats I've sat on, and that's saying something for BMW. But these did come with a low version seat and a standard height seat. The low version sits about 30.5 inches, and the standard seat sits at about 31.5 inches. After about 200 miles you may start to feel some discomfort, but it's very good, and I don't intend on getting an aftermarket seat unless I plan a 3 or 4 day road trip with it in the future. The bike comes with a fantastic ABS brake system, and it gives you a lot of confidence when riding. This bike stops on a dime. The foot pegs are well positioned, they don't feel too far forward or high. You've got the single-sided monoshock on the back with a shaft drive, which means there's no chain to maintain, so there's very low maintenance there. The factory side bags hold a ton of storage, and with the extra top case you should have everything you need to embark on a long motorcycle trip for days. And a full-face helmet can easily fit in this top case as well. I think the cases look great on the bike, I just leave them on all the time. It doesn't take away from the look of the bike. The stock exhaust is not bad, it is quiet, and it does have the typical BMW scooter purring of a cat sound. I'll probably get an aftermarket slip-on at some point, but for now I don't mind the quieter sound for a change. Oil changes are pretty simple to do on these bikes. If you can do one on your car, then you can do one here. And the center stand makes a big difference in having room to work on it. Now let's start it up. As far as the rest of the electronic gauges, the gear you're in is very well displayed, and the speedometer is pretty easy to read. The information button displays outside temperature, miles per gallon. I've been getting about 40 miles per gallon, which is nowhere near as good as what I was getting on the 800, which is more like 55 miles per gallon. And the buttons on the actual computer change between the clock, the trip mileage, and tire pressure, which is handy. One of the main issues on these onboard computer displays is the fuel strip culprit, which I currently do have this problem. It's a known issue on these years. Basically the fuel strip shows empty all the time and the yellow fuel light stays lit. In the States, BMW will warranty these for up to 12 years, I think, after your production year. But if you do get it serviced at the dealer, they should warranty it for 2 years. It's a couple $100s to get it replaced, so even though it's a recurring problem, once you fix it once, you won't have to worry about paying to fix it again for about 2 years anyway. I know some riders just put a piece of black tape in front of that yellow light and just reset the trip on every fill-up. But if you're thinking about buying this bike, you can basically guarantee this is a thing you will have to deal with. Now you can get an idea of how the stock exhaust sounds. Again, it's not very loud, but it sounds decent for stock, and the bike does have some grunt to it. The heated grips are great. There's 2 settings. If you have good gloves and riding in say 50 degrees Fahrenheit, the first setting is perfect. The second setting gives off a lot of heat. I've only used that setting when riding maybe in the mid-40s. Now let's take it for a ride. So on looks alone, this bike doesn't appear to have much power compared to some other bikes, but this bike is deceptively quick. The throttle response is excellent. It's obviously not a race bike, but there's more than enough power here. The fuel capacity is just under 5 gallons, I think it's 4.8 to be exact. And again, it averages about 40 to 43 miles per gallon. I actually ran out of gas the first month I owned it with that fuel strip problem, so now I know I can go exactly 216 miles on a tank. So when you're doing your bike trips, you'll want to fuel up around the 200-mile range to be safe. The manual does call for 91 octane fuel, but lists 89 as a less favorable alternative. One thing that struck me as different compared to coming off my sport touring bike was the seating position. I immediately felt like I was riding in the bike instead of riding on the bike, if that makes any sense. The scooped seat, along with where my eyes meet the instrument panel and the mirrors, makes for a unique bike to ride. The riding position is very comfortable. The only thing lacking is wind protection. The windshield does nothing, and some say it makes it even louder on the freeway. But if you're looking to buy a naked bike with no fairings or large windshield, the wind is something you're probably not concerned about. A lot of people who are used to it actually prefer the feeling of wind on you as you ride. They do make tall windshield expanders for this bike, but to me it just takes away the look of this bike when you put something like that on. These have a 6-speed transmission, which is a bit clunky, but that's just the way these bikes ride, and one benefit is you can really feel when you've changed gears. The bike also has a very low center of gravity, which makes it very easy to handle. And I have to say, one thing I love about this bike is its uniqueness. I live in Northeast America, and in this part of the country, most motorcycles you see, probably like 80% of them are going to be Harleys. So not only do you not see a lot of BMW riders, but I've hardly seen any R1200Rs around here. And I do love to ride a bike that not many people see very often. Another thing is the longevity of these motorcycle boxer engines. Some of these 1200s have been known to go up to 150,000 miles, which is incredible for a motorcycle. So people are riding these particular bikes with loads of miles on the engine, and they're still going strong. But in conclusion, I'd say this is all in all a fantastic bike. It's light enough for city maneuvering, yet feels as planted as a larger touring machine on the freeway. And it's got more than enough grunt that will be a lot of fun to hit the twisties with. As far as the pros and cons of this bike, I'd say some of the negatives are the fuel economy again is not that great. It seems to average between 40 and 43 miles per gallon. The fuel strip indicator failure, which happens on just about all of these bikes. And number 3, the wind on the freeway. But again, if you're really looking for a naked bike, this won't deter you. On the plus side, it's a comfortable riding position. There's plenty of power and speed in this bike. And number 3, that boxer engine, which has incredible longevity to it. If you're thinking about buying a touring bike that has the naked roadster look to it, the BMW R1200R would be a great bike for you. As the saying goes, people who are looking for this sort of thing will find this the sort of thing they like.